to Locally Sourced. I'm Armanda Famiglietti. Project Drawdown is the most comprehensive plan to reverse global warming by the year 2050. I hope that got your attention because tonight my guest is going to explain more about Project Drawdown. Welcome, Joe Montuori.
Thanks, Armanda. Thanks very much for having me.
Well, I'm really glad you're here, Joe, because I went to a meeting of the Putnam Progressives, and you gave a very interesting presentation about Project Drawdown, which I hadn't heard about before. So tell me a little bit about you, your background, and how you got involved with Project Drawdown.
Sure. So I live in Mayapack. I'm a Hopac, and I've lived here for almost 30 years now. And I'm a social studies teacher at Horace Greeley High School in Chappaqua, and I've always been interested in the environment. I actually started out as a science major, but switched to the social sciences because I think that's actually the way policies get changed. Mm-hmm. And I heard about Project Drawdown. Was having a conference at the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York.
Had you heard of Project Drawdown?
I had not heard of
then?
it, no.
Okay.
But it's based on the work that was published in a 2017 book that became a New York Times bestseller. So I went to the conference, learned about it, and I'm kind of evangelizing now for Drawdown.
Did you have any special training to come out and do presentations and talk about Drawdown?
Just my training as a teacher. I present all the time, in the classroom, mm-hmm. And I've done some work in the community before, so I thought this is kind of a natural thing for me to do.
Yeah. So tell me exactly, what does drawdown mean? What are we talking about when we say drawdown?
Yeah. So drawdown is it's a word that has multiple meanings, but in this context, drawdown refers to actually drawing down carbon from the atmosphere and putting it back where it belongs in the earth, where it came from, and draw down, as far as the project goes, refers to the point at which more carbon is being pulled out of the atmosphere than is being put into it.
Mm-hmm. And so the time frame is 2050. Is that saying that by 2050 we should have reversed what's in the air, or that's when it starts to reverse?
The latter, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So we have 30 years to get things in place?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That's good. So most people understand, or at least they think they understand, greenhouse gases and what greenhouse gases do to make the globe warm, and then global warming causes climate change.
Right.
Can you just sort of go through that one more time so we all kind of understand it? Because
Sure.
I know there are even people who say, nah, that isn't really even happening. But
right.
What do you say?
Well, so greenhouse gases are a reference to the greenhouse effect. Our biosphere is essentially like a greenhouse, and most of the heat that comes into our atmosphere radiates back out into outer space. But the composition of our atmosphere has been changing due to our burning of fossil fuels, and as the amount of carbon in the atmosphere goes up, more of that heat is being retained. So the primary greenhouse gases that have that effect are carbon dioxide. That's the largest greenhouse gas in volume.
And what causes carbon dioxide?
The burning of fossil fuels.
Okay, so coal,
oil, natural gas.
Okay.
They all...
Cars, planes, heating your home.
Correct. Virtually making of plastics.
Industrial uses.
The making of cement uses a tremendous amount of fossil fuels, so that also contributes to climate change. Our whole economy today is really based on fossil fuels, and we're just beginning to transition to renewables, and obviously we need to accelerate that.
Obviously, yeah. So when you say renewables, what do you mean by that?
Renewable energy sources, wind, solar, geothermal, hydroelectric. Because
when we use fossil fuels, we use them up, right? But renewables means we'll never use up solar energy because the sun will always be providing it. We'll never use up geothermal because the earth will always be a molten lava bed underneath the surface.
That's right, and that's another reason to transition sooner rather than later, because eventually we will run out of non-renewable sources like fossil fuels.
Right, and so those are also called clean clean fuels because wind, solar energy. What about gas? People say that natural gas.
The clean fossil fuel. Yeah,
fuel. Is that true?
It's not actually true. I mean, natural gas is actually methane, and while methane burns more cleanly than coal and more cleanly than oil, also in the process of extracting natural gas and transporting it, some of it gets released into the atmosphere. And methane is another greenhouse gas, and it's more than 25 times as powerful as CO2 as a global warming agent. Mm-hmm. So it's actually the net effect of natural gas is as bad or worse than coal.
Okay, is coal number one bad guy? Is most wanted coal burning?
Coal is...
Because I've heard of clean coal.
Right.
Is there such a thing as clean coal?
Not yet.
Not yet. Are we moving towards clean coal?
There are projects working on that, but they're in the distant future, and we don't really have the time or the luxury to.
Right, and plus it's not a renewable.
Correct.
There's only so much coal in the world.
That's
right. So tell me about the project. Tell me who started it, who's involved with it. I know you're involved at the grassroots level, but it really it's a whole ladder from grassroots all the way up to top climate scientists.
Yes, absolutely. It was the brainchild of a gentleman by the name of Paul Hawken, who's an environmentalist and an entrepreneur. He's been an advisor to governments and businesses for a long time, and he came up with this idea and said, if global warming is such a problem, what will it take to actually reverse it? Mm-hmm. And no scientist he spoke to could answer that question. So he took it upon himself, working with some other colleagues, to bring together dozens of scientists to figure that out. And over several years, they came up with a list of 100 top solutions that, if all of them are implemented, could actually reverse global warming.
Okay. So I think we have a cover of the book, and there it is. And I just want to say that if people want to know more about Project Drawdown and they want to know more about the book, you're actually leading a discussion at the Mahopac Library, and we have a slide for that as well, on March 28th?
That's correct. March 28th at 6:30 p.m.
At 6:30. So there's the slide. So if anyone, if you find this fascinating, and just the idea that we can reverse global warming, which sounds like very helpful to me, you might want to go and hear Joe speak at Mahopac Library on the 28th.
Yeah, and I'll just point out the book is available at the library, and if they run out of copies, copies can be purchased at a pretty steep discount. There's a discount available at the counter at the circulation desk.
Terrific. Okay, and it's paperback.
That's correct.
So let's talk about the 100 solutions, because that's very intriguing in terms of that there are 100 solutions.
Yes,
when people think, we're doomed, right?
Right.
So we have this slide, and it says 100 solutions to reverse global warming by 2015, and it's a little hard to see the different categories there. So if you could just give me sort of the ranking from 1 to like 20 of what is it that needs to change. What is the solution to global warming?
Sure. So they're broken down into sectors like materials, energy, food, land use. Women and girls actually is a sector as well. And one thing I'll emphasize, even though we'll be talking about the top 20, is that they're all important and all of them have to be done. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't want people to walk away thinking like, I've got to do something about refrigeration, which is number one. Refrigeration is really something that needs to be handled by local and state governments, perhaps with some federal intervention as well. But the gases, the chlorofluorocarbons and other gases used in refrigerants, air conditioners, heat pumps, and refrigerators.
Mm-hmm. Things we all have in our homes.
Exactly. They need to be disposed of properly, because if the gases inside them escape into the atmosphere, they'll contribute further to global warming.
I see. So it's more of a disposal issue than actually running your refrigerator.
That's right.
You're contributing to global warming.
That's
it's
right.
What happens when you get a new refrigerator, what happens to the old one.
Correct.
So is that being addressed as we speak?
As a matter of fact, in Ulster County, coming out of the Drawdown conference, a group called Sustainable Hudson Valley is working on developing a plan for the Hudson Valley to responsibly dispose of all heat pumps, air conditioners, and refrigerators.
Terrific. So they're working on a plan. So are you telling me that right now those things are not being disposed of responsibly? Is that what you're telling me, Joe?
I think they can be disposed of responsibly. Utilities often have the means to dispose of them properly, and sometimes they even have rebates, offers to pick up old refrigerators and air conditioners.
Do you know if NYSEG has that?
I don't know offhand if they currently do. I know in the past they did.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Why would they stop something like that? No. Okay, anyways, I don't want to get hung up on the first one. So what's the second most important solution?
Wind turbines, wind generators.
Which I see more and more, thank God. I go, whenever I'm traveling up and down, from here to Rhode Island to back or whatever, I see more and more of them, thank God.
Yeah.
So, but we need more. We need on land and we need offshore, right?
Yes, that's right. Number 2 is onshore, and number 22 is wind turbines offshore.
That's interesting.
But in between is reduced food waste, plant-rich diets, that's number 4. Tropical forests, protecting tropical forests is number 5. Hold
on for a second.
Yeah.
Let's go back to plant-rich diet. Is that for every living thing on the earth or just human beings?
For human beings, yeah. And it's not. It does not mean a vegetarian diet. It really just means increasing the proportion of plants you're eating, vegetables and fruits, and
compared
grains,
to meat.
Compared to meat and dairy as well.
So how come it's not phrased as a less meat diet? Why is it phrased the other way around?
I guess maybe it's the glass half full rather than the glass half empty, perhaps.
Okay, all right. I see. They don't want to make the meat producers angry or something.
Perhaps. But plant-rich diet is something that everybody can do.
Right. Well, it has benefits other than for the planet.
Exactly. And as a matter of fact,
for us.
That's true of all the drawdown solutions. All of them have beneficial side effects. Obviously, if we're not burning fossil fuels, our air will be cleaner. There'll be fewer people suffering from asthma and emphysema. I think it's something like 4,000 people a year die from air pollution as a result of air pollution in the United States.
That's in the United States?
Yeah.
How does that work? Where is it so polluted they die from air pollution?
Well, as a matter of fact, the air in the Hudson Valley is actually below average. We get a lot
out here in the country.
Yeah, we get a lot of air pollution from coal plants burning in the Midwest. It comes this way. That has been decreasing, but it's still a problem. Plus, we drive a lot of cars. People burn wood stoves. All of that contributes.
Wow, I didn't even realize that. That's sobering. So let's go to a few more top solutions.
Educating girls. That's really more of a factor in developing countries. Family planning, solar farms, silvopasture.
What's that?
Silvopasture is incorporating pasture lands amongst trees that provide shade to grow the grass that livestock needs to eat.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Is that happening? No, I haven't
not
heard
very
of
much.
It.
Not very much. It's a new idea, but
so it's trees in the pastures. It's sort of
correct.
like those paintings from the 1800s. You see a pasture, and you see every few yards a tree that the cows are standing under.
Right.
It's that sort of model.
Yeah, and the cows or goats or sheep would actually contribute nutrients to the soil for the trees and the grass.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So right now, pasture land is without trees. Is that what you're saying? I don't really.
Well, most of our livestock today is not even pastured. Right. Most of it is factory farmed. So they're fed corn usually, which is not something that they evolved to eat, which causes them health problems, which causes us health problems. Okay. So again, there's multiple beneficial effects to these solutions that go way beyond. Reversing global warming.
So let me ask you a question about that. So I'm not a vegetarian, but I try to eat as little cow meat, anyways, as possible. is it okay if it's organic and free range? I mean, does that improve?
Yes.
I'm sure it improves the health benefits
Right.
for me, but is that also
It's better for the
contributing
animals.
for the environment?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's better for everybody.
Right. Grass-fed beef grass is what cows evolved to eat. And so by feeding them grass, they're healthier, and it produces a healthier meat for you to consume. They live a better life because they're living outdoors, and
They only have
should.
one bad day.
Right. So it's definitely better.
Okay,
Yeah.
so keep that in mind. It tends to be quite a bit more expensive than what you're going to buy in the
It is.
supermarket,
It
but
is.
it's worth finding it, and if that's what you're going to
Fewer doctor bills, longer life.
Sounds
It's
like
a good trade-off,
It's a good
right?
trade-off to me. So a few more.
Sure. Regenerative agriculture. Now that's not a topic I know a lot about, but I know it involves less plowing, because actually the plowing of land and turning it over actually releases carbon into the atmosphere.
Okay, so tilling the soil is not good for the atmosphere.
Right. And there's ancient techniques that can be mechanized that could avoid the use of plowing and tilling the land. That would keep more carbon in the soil.
Okay.
So that's another.
What number are we up to?
We are up to number 11. So 12 is temperate forests, so reforestation, essentially, and maintaining the forests that we have.
So that's planting new forests as well as maintaining.
Correct.
Right? So,
Correct.
Okay, so what's happening to the rainforest in South America? Try to reverse that trend?
Yeah. I mean, that is being taken
That's a tough
down.
one.
That is being taken down, in enormous quantities every day. Right, and most of that is going to beef production for the United States.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it has economic benefit, or at least short-term economic benefit for the people who live there.
Short term, right. So obviously they need alternatives for their economy. What else have we got here? Peatlands, tropical staple trees, afforestation, which is
Reforesting?
Afforestation is reforestation, conservation agriculture, tree intercropping, geothermal energy, managed grazing, and then number 20 is actually nuclear power.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's pretty controversial,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
It is. Some environmentalists don't think that that's necessary. There's a long time lag between planting a plant and actually getting it online. It also uses a tremendous amount of concrete. There's, obviously big safety issues with nuclear. That's personally not one I'm too wild about myself.
So you don't have to love all 100 solutions.
No. And obviously some of them are not up to us as individuals, as citizens.
So I actually just want to mention the International Panel on Climate Change. Back in October came out with a frightening, whenever anything comes out on climate change, it's frightening, it seems.
Sure.
Except for this book, which makes it sound like, the planet is not going to die, or at least human beings aren't going to die. They say we only have 20 years until there's a crisis. And this book says we have 30 years. What do you think about that?
Well, climate modeling has gotten more and more accurate over the years. And it seems like every time they come up with a new modeling technique, it looks like we have less time.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
because this book was written in 2017.
Correct.
This came out in 2019.
That's right.
The end of 2018.
That's right. So, I don't think it's worth arguing which one is correct.
Just get on the ball.
I think we just need to work as quickly as possible. Why take a chance?
How does the 100 Solutions in Drawdown match with the Green New Deal that was just proposed in the House of Representatives?
There's a lot of overlap between the two. They're developed separately by separate groups, and they would be implemented largely separately. The Green New Deal is a government proposal that would be administered by government, whereas Drawdown is kind of everybody doing their part: government, business, individual citizens and residents and consumers like us.
Well, a lot of pushback to the Green New Deal is
Yeah.
that it's way too ambitious, and it also includes sort of things that don't really sound green, like making sure everyone has a living wage and an income, and other economic and social benefits are part of it. So, but the ecological part of it, to me, sounds a lot like what the Drawdown is about. And other climate movements in terms.
Yeah.
There's a lot of agreement about what needs to be done, right?
That's true.
Except at the highest level of the U.S. government, right? Our president is a climate denier.
That's right.
Is that going to be an obstacle to...
Ultimately, yes. But I think that also just, makes me feel like
work harder?
we need to work harder at the local level. And the state level as well. Our state government has done an awful lot in this regard, and I think it could do more.
Is New York a leader in trying to reverse?
We are one of the leaders.
Change? Okay.
I think
California
is probably further
it's
along than
like
we are.
Neck and neck
New
with
Jersey
California.
is actually also right up there in Massachusetts. There's so much we can do, and I'm really interested in getting folks in our area, in town of Carmel, in Putnam County, getting people together to work on this. And with that in mind, I did a workshop that I think you attended,
Yes,
and
that's when I heard about it for the first time.
I'll be doing the library book discussion for anybody who's interested. I've also I just started a Facebook page, and I'm going to be working on a website.
Okay, great.
Sustainable Putnam.
Terrific.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Because right now there's a Facebook page for the national, or I guess it's really an international movement,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Of Drawdown, and you're going to start your own. So locally we can work together,
Right.
to do this. And so let's talk about what individuals like you and me and the viewers can do to do our part.
Sure. Well, I think food is the easiest sector to work within as an individual or as a member of a household. Changing your diet, composting your own food waste. It's not that hard to do. My family and I have been doing it for years. I've raised my kids, composting our food waste in the backyard.
Like luckily I have a large yard, and I have, a part of it dedicated to composting. But not people live in apartments. They don't have.
Right.
What do they do? Is there a small inside version of composting?
There is. You can actually get a self-contained composting unit with worms. Red wrigglers.
Think of them as pets.
Yeah, exactly. And some towns like town of Newcastle and Bedford, they've actually started centralized composting services, so you can bring your compost to
that's
a recycling center.
A government
Yeah,
thing?
town
It's
government.
not like a private company that comes and picks up your compost?
Well, what they do is they actually sell the compost then to a private company that they've got an industrial strength composting machine, and then they sell the finished humus from the compost to local farms and landscapers.
Oh,
yeah.
So that's great. So that's
very
good
ecological.
It's good for the economy. It's good for the
Exactly.
people who do it. Jobs, green jobs for
That's
people.
right. That's right.
So you mentioned food waste, and I know that food waste is just a very depressing subject. I volunteer with a group called Second Chance Foods. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah.
And what we do, I'm just a small piece of it, but we pick up food that's just about to expire from supermarkets, and we bring them to food pantries. In the growing season, we take any excess or ugly vegetables.
Oh, that's great.
Ones that people may not want to buy in the supermarket, and there's a kitchen and Brewster, and volunteers get together and make soup and applesauce and things that can be frozen and then given to the food pantries.
That's great.
And it's a great idea. I'm really, happy that I can be a part of that. And so there are, people should look for these kind of opportunities in their own communities, right? How we can do this. And in the book, I want to get back to the book. Is there a section on what individuals can do? Because I would think that for some of the big topics, what we can do is sort of nudge and lobby and tell our representatives in Congress and the Senate and local legislature and town meetings that this is important to us and we want it.
Yeah. The book is more of a roadmap and a kind of a technical guide, and it doesn't have a lot of how-to information. And I think a lot of that has been happening, and I think people like me and you who have been doing this kind of thing are now kind of seeing how it all fits together. And there's another organization called Hudson Valley Climate Solutions Network that is bringing people in the Hudson Valley together that have been working on these issues and sharing their solutions.
Terrific.
Yeah.
So the more we know, the more we ourselves can do and get more excited about. I mean, we just don't want to sit here and have the planet.
No,
it's
we
not
can't
going to be
that.
dropped down, it'll be drop dead, right? It's like, so thanks so much for coming, Joe. One more time I want to show the slide about where people can see you at the Mahopac Library on March 28th. That's going to come up in a second.
Okay.
And it is, right? There it is. Thanks, guys in the control room. And thanks very much, Joe, for coming. And not just for coming here, but for all of the work that you do, just because you are motivated as a citizen to make the world a better place for you, for us, for our grandchildren.
And thank you.
And generations to come. And so thanks very much. And thanks to our crew that I yell at. But I really appreciate the work that they do and the people who watch. Thanks. Thanks very much, Joe.
Thanks for having me.